Okay, so our equation is 2n squared minus 9n minus 18. Okay, so what's the A, B, and C value? 2, negative 9, negative 18. Okay. What goes here? Negative 9. Okay, what goes here? Negative 9. All right, what goes here? 2. And here? Okay. And here? 2. So we have negative b plus or minus square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c, all divided by 2a. Okay. So what do I plug into the calculator first? Mm-hmm. Perfect. So the discriminant is what I have to plug in. Now you have to be really careful because if you don't put parentheses around your negative 9 when you square it, you'll get the wrong answer. So we know that negative 9 times negative 9 should be positive 81. But if you type negative 9 squared, you're going to get a negative 81. Negative is down here. So this is the, this is the negative button. This is the minus button. Yeah. Yeah, negative button, minus button. So however you would read the math out loud, that's how you type it in the calculator, keeping in mind that this is the negative button, that's the minus button. So when we say negative 9 squared, that means that we're using this button. If we said negative 9 minus 4, we would say negative 9 minus 4. That's how we would type it. So these two buttons are different. So if we did negative 9 squared, we know that's positive 81, but if you type it like this, you get negative 81 because the calculator is squaring the 9, but it's not squaring the negative. So to make sure that you're squaring both, you have to type it in parentheses, negative 9 squared, like that, or else you get it wrong. Okay, so for our discriminant, we've got negative 9 squared minus 4 times a times c. And what did you guys get for the discriminant?
11,000.
So be careful about your negatives versus your minuses. You'll notice, too, that the negatives are really short. The minuses are a little bit longer. 225. Negative 9 minus 4 times a times c. Your minus 4 is a negative 4. See how short it is? So what your calculator did is it multiplied everything. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, so 225 is what we should have gotten. Was everyone able to get that? 225? Okay. So 225 goes in here. Okay, oops. 225, there we go. We have negative of negative 9. What's that? 9. Okay, and then we have 2 times 2 on the bottom. What's that? 4. Yeah, 225 is a perfect square. So what is it? 15. Okay, so 9 plus or minus 15 over 4. Now, you don't even have to really do that. You can simplify this by hand if you want to, but either of these would have been good to plug in the calculator from here. So I'm going to go back to this version because you might not have recognized it. So these calculators are good at plugging in fractions either from here or here. It doesn't matter. So to get the fraction, we're going to do alpha, the green button. Alpha y equals is how we get that big fraction plugged in. So alpha y equals, and then on the first option, we're going to press enter. alpha y equals and press enter.
Where's the equal button?
Alpha y equals, press enter. The enter button is the bottom right corner. Yeah. So we've got 9 plus, and then the square root button is the blue version above the x squared key. So we're going to hit the blue key second x squared. 225, or you could do 15 since you know it's 15. So we have to do the two versions, the plus version and the minus version. So the plus version gives you 6. I don't feel like typing the whole thing again, so I'm just going to press my up arrow and go up and grab this. Make it so it's dark on there and press enter. And then I can use my back arrow to go back and change that plus to a minus. -3/2. Yeah. The square root is right here. It's the blue above x squared. And so to get the blue, you hit this blue button right here. So second x squared. How are we doing with typing stuff in?
Terrible.
Need me to repeat anything?
Yeah, just can you repeat the whole thing? 'Cause
Yeah.
I'm getting to Y and then I press enter and it's
Yeah, okay. So to type the fraction in, we hit the green button and then the y equals button. So green button, y equals button, and then this little screen should pop up.
so Y is the 1.
So y equals is right up here. So I did green button, y equals, and then this little screen pops up right here. And then once this little screen pops up, you press the enter button, which is right down here in the corner.
It's coming up like that.
So you're just pressing the y enter button.
Okay. So what am I supposed to say?
The green button first. Green button and then y enter. Y equals.
Why
Here.
are these things so confusing? And I could like barely see my buttons.
So green button first and then y equals.
Oh, okay, there.
Okay, and then press enter. Yep, okay. And then press the 9 and plus. And then to get the square root or the squared button is right here, and the square root is the blue right above it. And so we hit the blue button and then the x squared button, and that's how you get a square root. So I did 225, so I did the step above that, just saying what if I didn't know that it was 15? This way I don't even have to know. And then I'm pressing my down key so I can get to the bottom.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, perfect. Now, if you don't want to type it again to do the minus version, you can press the up key, and it'll highlight the 6, and then press the up key again. It'll highlight what you just typed. And if you press enter, it'll basically copy paste it. So you don't have to type it twice. And now I'm going to press the back arrow to go. I'm going to hover over my plus, and I'll put a minus there instead and get my other answer. Perfect. Okay, so I have x equals 6, x equals -3/2. All right, we all feeling comfortable? Everybody good? Okay, let's do another one. Okay, this one is going to be, yes. Mm-hmm.
So you only divide, you only not divide, but you only put it in the calculator if it doesn't have an I, like divide
Mm-hmm.
the 2x.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, your calculator doesn't like the i's. It doesn't like negatives under square roots. So when I see that, then I know that I kind of have to continue by hand. But if it doesn't have the I, then I can do it in the calculator, because the calculator can either do decimals for me, it can do the whole numbers for me. Yeah. All right. 5k squared equals negative 3. What should I do? Yeah, add the 3 over. Okay. So that's 0. So what is my equation? Okay. So something's missing, right? The b value. The b value is missing. So for the a value, what is it? 5. The b value is 0. The c value is 3. Okay, so if we start plugging these numbers in, what do we get here? 0. What do we get here? 0. Okay, what do we get here? 5 and 3 and 5. Okay, so I'll get this set up. And I'm going to figure out what my discriminant is. Zero squared minus 4 times 5 times 3. So we got negative 60 over 10. We got negative 0 in the front, which is just 0. So what should we do? Yeah. Make that a plus, make this imaginary. Okay. Do I really need the 0 in the front? No. Okay. So I've got plus or minus I root 60 all over 10. Can I simplify and say 60 over 10 is 6 somehow? Are you able to do that? So you can only reduce numbers that are in like the same position. So the 10 could only reduce with the 60 if they were either both outside of a square root or both underneath a square root. Does that make sense? So this right here, if I wanted to express the 10 in terms of square roots, the 10 right now would be 10 square root 1. If I wanted a square root to be in that part of the problem. Because 10 times the square root of 1 is still just 10. So the only way this could reduce is if I did 60 divided by 1. That's the only part of the problem that could reduce. If I wanted the root 60 to have something that is similar to the 10, I could put 1 square root 60. And the only thing that I could compare with the 10 would be the 1 and the 10. The 60 and the 10 are technically not comparable because one of them is underneath the square root, one of them is not. Okay, so you cannot reduce the 60 and the 10 because they're not in the same position. One has a square root, one doesn't. So if you wanted to do any reducing, you would have to first take that square root and simplify it, and then you would have to see if there was a coefficient for the square root that could simplify with the 10. But the way that it's written right now, you can't touch it. Okay? So we could leave this as an answer. Now, Math 2 would say, oh, simplifying radicals, we know how to do that. We should simplify that, see if we can cancel anything out. Math 3 says we don't care about simplifying radicals. Let's just leave it the way it is. Okay? So let's go ahead and just leave it. We're going to call this good. Upper levels of math, it kind of depends what math you're in. So if you were in college, they would leave this right here. If you were in like an AP calculus class, or probably next year they're going to start doing AP pre-calc. If you're in an AP class, they're probably, for like multiple choice answers, they would probably simplify that. So it just kind of depends on the context on whether or not they would simplify and reduce, or if they would accept this answer. Mathematically speaking, that answer is fine. It's accurate. It's not wrong. Okay. Makes sense? We're good? So as long as you don't reduce that, 10 and 60, it feels like they should reduce, but they do not, because those numbers are not in the same type of spot. They're not in spots where we can compare them. Okay? All right, let's do one last problem, and then I will let you guys finish up the Snoop Dogg assignment. So this is going to be 8x squared plus x equals 21. And what should we do? Minus the 21 over. So we have 8x squared plus x minus 21 equals 0. So what is your a value? 8. And your b value? And your c value? Okay. So in the very front, we have a 1. And then we have 1 squared minus 4 times 8 times, all divided by 2 times 8. Okay. All right, so let's figure out what the discriminant is. So we've got 1 squared minus 4 times 8 times negative 21. So you can see on the calculator, there's my minus, there's my negative. You can see the difference in the length, minus, negative. All right, 673 for our discriminant. Okay, over here we got a negative 1, and then on the bottom we've got 2 times 8, so we got 16. Okay, any predictions about what type of answer we're going to get? A fraction. Is it going to be a nice fraction? Can we tell?
One is negative 1.683.
Okay.
And then one is 1.55.
Okay. So we're going to get decimals, and the decimals are not going to be nice. And how do we know that the decimals are going to be there? That it's not going to be a nice number like the last time. So here we got some nice numbers. Here we're going to get numbers that aren't nice. And how do we know? What's the difference between those two problems? It has to do with the number that you're square rooting. It's not a perfect square. So if you're square rooting a perfect square, you get some nice answers, because you end up with something like this. You know, you get 9, 15, 4. Those are things that could become a fraction at the end. Over here, if you're going to square root something that's not a perfect square, you're going to start to get some funky decimals. And then funky decimals divided by 16 are going to stay funky decimals. Okay, so how do we type a fraction on our calculator so that we can plug this in? Okay, so alpha y equals, we're going to get that green button y equals, and we press enter. I should hear a little bit of clicking because everybody's following along. So alpha y equals, and then the first option, we've got a negative 1 plus, and then how do we get the square root on our calculator? So blue button, second, x squared. Perfect. So 673, all divided by 16. Okay. 1 point. And so in this class, I'm just always going to ask you to give me 3 decimal places unless the assignment specifically says something else. So I'm going to do X, and I put a squiggly equal sign. That means approximately. It's telling the person looking at my paper that I rounded the answer. I didn't write down every single decimal in the calculator or every single decimal possible. I just rounded it to 3. So 1.559. 1.559. You do not have to put the squiggly equal sign if you don't want to. I just want you guys to know what it means when I write it down. Okay? All right. How do I go up and grab that and copy paste so I don't have to type it again? Go up with the arrow and press enter. Okay, I'm going to go back, change this to a minus. -1 point. What's my next answer? -1.684. Perfect. Okay. All right, so if you look at the Snoop Dogg assignment, there are 8 problems for you to do to finish up that assignment. And then some coloring if you choose. And then if you guys get it done today, you are welcome to turn it into the box today. Okay? Sound good? Yes. Yes. Yes, yes.
You want me to bring it up?
Sure.